go. Whoa. Yeehaw.
Добрый день, мы рады приветствовать всех тех, кто присоединился к нашей
Good morning. We are glad to welcome everyone who joined us online. Thanks for being with us and observing how we start our panel discussion, industrial design and young engineers and new quality of industry. Now we suggest discussing some topical matters. This is the place of promotion of industrial design and how it's going to influence the global production chains, whether industrial design will become part of any production process, and how to support and how to help the development of young engineers. I would like to introduce first our participants of the discussion. Ariane Danier, President of Nauka Innov CCI France, with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Alexey Karfidov, co-founder, General Designer of Karfidov Lab, Maria Kulakmetova, Director of Department for Corporate Communications and Educational Programs of Dassault Systems. Елена Пантелеева, Director for Development of the National Center of Industrial Design and Innovations 2015 Lab. Paul Priestman, Creative Director of CCRC Saifang, Founder and Director of a company. And Smirnov Sergey, Founder and Chief Executive Officer of Smirnov Design. I am glad to welcome and to greet everyone, all the participants of our discussion. Thanks for being with us and finding the time to discuss topical issues. And from the very beginning, I would like to invite to participate in the discussion our foreign guest, the first speaker from Great Britain. This is Paul, the founder of the company, Priestman Good. Let me give some information to you. His projects received many awards in the sphere of design at the London Festival of Design. He is in the list of the best-known citizens of London. He is the honorable member of the College of Arts, the Royal Club of Arts. Paul, we're welcome to greet you. Thanks for being with us. We know that you worked with such companies as Transport London, Austrian Railways, elaborated the design of high-speed trains. We would like you to tell us more about your projects. And as we're now at the Economic Forum, I would ask you to evaluate whether it's possible to evaluate the investment into creating comfort in the transport machine building.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, everybody around the world. Okay, I'm going to just share my screen and I'll do a quick presentation. So here we go. Yeah, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Priestman. I am the chairman of Priestman Good in London, and we have offices in London and China. So today I was going to talk very quickly about some of the aspects of our work. And we specialize in transportation design and in particular new concepts. And this is some of the work that we've been carrying out with Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, where we were commissioned to design the exterior interior of this new transportation system. And what's interesting about this is that it is a new form of transport which actually allows people to travel in small numbers over large distances. And this is the first prototype, full-size prototype, that was launched earlier in the year. And this is where design is really critical in projecting the future of transportation and design. And I'm just going to show some demonstrations of other projects that we've been working on, which are reacting to a little bit of the world situation at the moment. And this is the design of trains for sleeping in trains overnight. And this is the design which allows people to sleep in their individual areas. And this is a trend that we see happening in transportation, where the people are using the transportation and the infrastructure at night when it's not in full use to travel from city to city. And this is actually designing these separate pods so people can travel in isolation, which is obviously very topical at the moment. Another project that we are working on is looking at rail travel, and particularly in connection with the social distancing issues that we are having at the moment. So this concept that we have developed in London is to use the social distancing area for transportation of bicycles. So it's using that space for a useful activity rather than it just being wasted space, because obviously there are less people able to use trains currently. So this is a concept that we've been working on. The other interesting thing that's happening is I've always been interested in the link between transportation and mobility and health. And as many countries, the aging population, the elderly people, how can we keep people active, and how can we maintain their sort of position in society through design? And here you can see a design which we developed for the London Design Museum here in London, and it's called Scooter for Life, and it's about designing transportation modes for the elderly, the more elderly people in the population. Another area that I'm particularly interested in is the big systems, and design is a lot to do with thinking about new ideas and new things. And this is a concept called metro freight, which is an idea that I had. And it's thinking about how can we use the metro systems in cities to deliver parcels, not just people. So the idea is that instead of vans clogging up the streets and causing congestion, using the metro infrastructure to deliver parcels and packages to the center of cities and then distribute them from the metro station using local communities. You know, in New York, for instance, there's 1.5 million deliveries every day using the roads, which is causing congestion. So we should use the infrastructure that we have in different ways. And this concept here is looking at drones. And it's taking all of the drones that, the drone technology that we can see, and actually trying to use it in a different way. So it's a system. It's using the rivers and the harbors that every city is built on, and using that as the main distribution center. And again, trying to reduce congestion and delivering packages at different heights to different parts of the city to relieve the congestion, the delivery vans that we see everywhere in the cities. And the idea is that this system is then run remotely from one organization, so that they're not little different objects flying around, and then they can deliver to the outsides of apartments and businesses, and then wait there for their next task to go and deliver and pick up things. And this is the sort of the ideal connectivity. And this again is where design can sort of bring to life a future thinking idea and make it feel sort of a softer and more friendly way of approaching things. So design is often thinking about the future and how we can perceive the future. And, you know, obviously trying to create something which is quite interesting. And then finally, my last little presentation, part of the presentation, is a project that we're working with a space company, Space Perspective, and we were asked to look at the design of vehicles for near space travel. And the idea here is that this is a new technology that allows near space travel, but also using this part of the atmosphere to launch into other planets and leave the planet and go to different destinations. And this is a computer generation, a movie that we produced, which gives that sort of vision of what might be happening in the future. So I'm going to finish my presentation at this point. Really, I'd just like to say that you know, design is key for all new future development. And design is not just about making things beautiful; it's about problem solving and making things better, and hopefully a better world. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing the other presentations from the other presenters.
Пол, большое спасибо, очень интересная презентация.
Paul, thanks a lot. That's a very interesting presentation. It was like a time machine which took us into the future, where we can see how things are going to be in the future. Now we move next. We have another foreign speaker, Sven Rudolph, the founder of the company Rudolf Schelling-Webermann. And I will describe, say that he's the head of the designer bureau in Germany. They work with clients, use the designer's experience. Sven, we are glad to welcome you.
And that you are taking part in this panel discussion dedicated to industrial design. I know you are going to talk about the prototypes, particularly their use in combating the pandemic effect.
Hello.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the invitation. I'll give a short presentation on how designers created meaningful solutions in the COVID-19 pandemic, and also probably what we can learn from it also for other industries. So just shortly about us. I'm co-founder of Rudolf Schelling-Webermann. We are a product design and innovation consultancy based in Germany. And maybe a bit different to Paul before, we work in a broad range of fields. So these are some examples. Here you see our studio. This is a product design we did for Norman Copenhagen, and it's a width. So it's a cooking tool which you can use to mix ingredients in a bowl, and it was the first collapsible width in the world, probably. So it fits in any kitchen drawer. Yeah, this is another example for electronics. This is a radio and a Bluetooth speaker. And it has an antenna which can snap on wherever you want. So it's quite portable. This is a very different design. This is an e-bike for the chemical company BASF for their 150th birthday. And the idea was to show all their material innovation in a thought-provoking way. So it's a high-tech version of the bike from the year when BASF was founded. And this is an example for our work in innovation consultancy. This is a company called Out for Space, and they invented a new material out of rattan. And we helped them to start up their company and to find ways how to show their material in an appropriate way. And for us, it's
Am interrupting you? Maybe you will introduce the presentation itself so we could watch it when it must be on your computer, perhaps. The presentation.
I didn't get a translation here.
The presentation. Maybe we can watch the presentation itself, the visual presentation. You have a prepared presentation, haven't you?
Should I just carry on with the presentation?
Yeah, I think we can't see your presentation. I think it's the problem.
We cannot see the materials. The materials you have sent over, the presentation, the visual part of it.
But you can hear me?
Yeah, we can see you, but we can't see the presentation.
Yes, we can hear you, but we cannot see the presentation, the visual part of it.
So, okay. Do you see it now?
Afraid not. No.
I'm afraid no.
And now?
I see.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Now we got it. We got it.
Yes.
Excellent. Now we can see it all from the beginning.
This was the first page, and
Это
this was
была
the
первая
explanation. Sorry, this is the whisk we designed, which is collapsible and fits
вторая
in the drawers. This is
страница о том, какие новые специальные колеса мы разбираем для компании BASF, специальный велосипед, который инновационный, и он может двигаться по мягкой поверхности, и таким образом эта компания может с использованием данного велосипеда и нашего колеса доставлять продукцию до рынка. Но фактически мне не хотелось очень долго говорить о нас самих, а хотел бы поговорить, каким образом дизайнеры смогли сориентироваться и помочь людям во время пандемии. Вот прежде всего определили потребности потребителей и пользователей. Дизайнеров учат, чтобы они выявляли проблемы с тем, чтобы определить, какова проблема, каков ее источник, для кого вы решаете проблему и какую конкретно проблему. И таким образом, осуществляя комплексный подход, мы выделяем коренную проблему, которая определяет все остальные. И, конечно, мы можем приспособить продукт к специальным потребностям потребителя, и мы один из наших сотрудников разработал специальные щиты, которые гораздо удобнее, чем, скажем, просто маски для лица, потому что те оставляют отметины, и это очень важная разработка, и можно сказать, что это всеразмерный подходит для всех людей, и это лучше, вот этот щит, потому что можно, работая на вот этом стаконе, избежать влияния аэрозолей или других опасных веществ, которые выделяют.
Companies, not just designers, can learn from it is that it has a value to discover the real user needs. So then one thing you can learn from designers is to prototype. Designers are trained to quickly build mock-ups and prototypes of their ideas, test them and improve them iteratively. They're used to work with 3D software and rapid prototyping technologies and often have 3D printers in their studios. So in the COVID-19 pandemic, they could react quickly and became fabbers. That means digital fabricators when global supply chains broke down and medical equipment was missing. And this is a great example from Italy. And it's the company Isinova who reacted on the problem of emergency ventilator masks which were missing in Italian clinics and hospitals. So they took a snorkeling mask from Decathlon and they built a ventile to attach it to an emergency ventilator. And so their design was the connector between the mask and the ventilator. And so they could help a lot of people in Italy to go through this COVID-19 crisis. And of course, these connectors are 3D printed. Yeah, and the learning from it is that it's good to build prototypes also early in the process, to be very quick and to use 3D printing techniques to test the ideas and to make them better iteratively. So this is an advice which is completely in line with what Paul does. The advice is be fictional. Design fiction relies on the question, what if? So creative, provocative framework for speculation simulates the exploration of tension and sticking points and helps to start a debate on the new normal in a post-pandemic future. Yeah, and this is a great example. This is the San Siro Stadium in Milan, a very iconic architecture, but it's supposed to be teared down to build a new stadium somewhere else. So maybe there will be housing on this ground. And this architect made a suggestion to just tear down the roof and then plant a tree for every person who died in Italy in the COVID-19 pandemic, to make a memorial and a park out of it. So his idea was that how can we help the people to keep this pandemic in mind and also to stay alert. Maybe in 20 years, the next pandemic comes and we've forgotten all about it. So he wants a memorial for these people to keep this crisis alive in the heads of people.
Sven, excuse interrupting you. Please, supposing you finalize your presentation in a couple of minutes, if I may ask you.
So, should I finish the presentation?
A couple of minutes, please, a couple of minutes, and then finalize.
It's just 2 more foils. So this one is about storytelling. So you use, in social media times, you're striving to return to the oral tradition, in which stories that matter the most rise above the fray. And that is what Jonas Sachs calls the digital era. So designers are trained in crafting stories and they have the capability to visualize them. And stories with emotion and good narrative went viral and helped to share important information about the COVID-19 and also trigger human behavior. Then advice is to guide through design. So you see these round dots, and they were used by the people immediately to just some cans of paint and 4 hours of work. And the idea behind this is to nudge the people to do the right thing and not to force them. So, and the last topic is inspire people, or at least make them laugh. So the core competence of designers is to be creative, and in the ideation phase of a design process, we are trained to generate a vast amount of ideas, from reasonable to crazy. And during lockdown, we try to inspire people to become creative themselves and to overcome their lockdown fatigue. And this is an example from IKEA Russia. Yeah, and they made like they helped the people to build things out of their furniture for their children. Okay, that was it.
Большое спасибо. Спасибо большое за интересную презентацию.
Thank you ever so much for the most interesting presentation through.
Unfortunately, we are limited in time. We have to move on. Now Sergei Smirnov gets the floor, the founder of the Smirnov Design Company. Smirnov, you have over 600 projects for the world and Russian brands such as medicine, security, appliances, transportation, communication. So you practically cover those spheres. So what's the role of industrial design from your point of view in developing competitiveness of the production and the state as a whole? Thank you. Well, industrial design is a very unique sphere of industry and of our human activity. When we form the success of the product, solve many issues, and these issues are always at the crossroads, sometimes conflict crossroads of success, technological details, social, economic, and so on. Designer is a person who is obliged to get involved with all these aspects and at a profound depth, and see in advance what success is possible and regulate this success, which is still not there, but it is only in the vision of the designer. I believe that industrial design is obliged to be present in any project which is starting to develop. We must help the businessman to find a designer nearby and make sure he remembers the need for a designer. Because regrettably, we quite often see that industrial design remains some kind of decorative element in the minds of businessmen or the initiator of a project. And quite often, when they address an industrial designer, it's too late. Even if you look at this microphone, its structure is quite complicated, and many technological elements of this appliance are quite controversial, and you are supposed to know about them in advance. But the person who looks at this microphone believes that this is a functional, aesthetic, and emotional unit. We're not very much interested in what's inside this microphone. So at the crossroads of all these aspects, a conflict emerges, and the sooner we settle it, the sooner the designer will be able to solve it, and success will be assured. So the designer is a system engineer with much competence in the field of aesthetics. He understands the emotional dimension and the technological dimension. So how does it influence the state? I believe that if industrial design is supported in a system way, if it is subsidized, then we can start the process of successful production of production line, because design itself is not as expensive as the product itself. Its development, its preparation for the market. So there are many economic dimensions compared to just industrial design. So I propose, and it was tried in many countries, also here in Skolkovo, when industrial design is supported by micro grants. And I think the idea of systematic support to industrial design by the development institutions is a productive approach. So we see the growth of industrial design in the territory of Skolkovo. This is the mechanism which proved its value, and it should be promoted to other areas of the country. When we see that a businessman raised his hand and said, "I am prepared to develop and promote any product from any branch," then he should be supported with industrial design, should be granted a facility of industrial design. This will result in explosion production in the whole sphere and greater GDP and all other domestic processes relating to industry. The idea seems to be very simple, and I would like to bring it to the attention of everyone that it has proved that it is quite valid. These processes started in Britain long ago under Margaret Thatcher. This is a very interesting profession, a lucky profession, surprising profession, because all the time you deal with various problems, with the need to square the circle. I'm happy to be a designer, and designers are never dull, are never bored. So for young people, for young engineers, for young artists, for young creative people or businessmen, it's a very important activity. Thank you. We are moving next, and we have Daniera with us. Now we are giving the floor to you. He is the president of the Russian-French Center Nauka in Novo. We know that you have contacts with major industrial companies of both countries. So what are the main challenges in the sphere of Industry 04 in preparing the human resources, and what can be done to bring up new talents for the industry?
Thank you very much for having me. The industry is under a deep transformation that everybody knows, but more recently, this epidemic crisis also saw that the civil society actually is also taking the function of design and production out of the company. We saw in France that anyone actually in their flat apartment start to design and print some medical devices for the hospital, for the doctors. And that is also a very strong sign that actually the civil society, the young generation, show us that they understand also the new trend in the technology for industry and product development. Of course, that is the top of the iceberg. Inside the French companies, inside the industrial countries, there is a very ferocious fight to absorb and implement the new technology to engineering, to design products. And on this perspective, we are now looking at an absolutely extraordinary time where a new manufacturing process allow also new product design. And that is need a new relationship also between the industrial designer and also the people on the technology to see the new capabilities that they can actually bring all together. In France, for instance, in Airbus company, for the cabin design of aircraft, The design people are working hand in hand with the product experts, the manufacturing experts, and so on in task force, that everyone can actually bring their skills and talents to develop and design some new products that will fit the market. The key challenge, as we see in France, of course, for the industry players, is how to implement these new technologies, these new design capabilities inside the engineering centers. And that is a very tough transformation, where you need to train people that has been knowing some engineering standards, that everything now need to change and they need to evolve. And on this perspective, we have the chance that training, continuous permanent training, is one of the key pillars of the fourth industrial revolution in France from the government. The French government actually put 15 billion euros on the table to implement that, so continuous transformation to allow this transformation in the company. And also we do have digital leaders in France, as Dassault Systèmes, ESI Group, and others, that are taking a very important part in this transformation in the corporation, and insuffling some new digital solution, new digital tools, and training together with the company and the academic sector to succeed in this Industry 4.0 revolution. If we are looking now of what we are doing, now kind of the Center of Technological Cooperation, France-Russia, we are also looking how we can accelerate our bilateral cooperation in this perspective and help Russian industrial leaders, French industrial leaders in achieving this transformation. We launched last year the French-Russian Council of Industry of the Future, gathering industrial leaders and also French leaders and technological providers as Dassault Systèmes and others, where we share best practices, new technology that can be implemented in the leaders of both countries. So new design, new manufacturing capabilities is today a reality. It is a challenge to implement it at the right pace, to remain competitive on the global market, and as a country, as an academic sector, also to implement the right new training courses that the young students will be able to be competitive on the market and masterize the new technologies that we see and that we need. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Мы продолжаем блок вопросов, связанных с подготовкой молодых инженеров.
Thanks a lot. We carry on with the teaching of young engineers, and I'm giving the floor to Maria Kulahmetova. Good morning. I'm happy to be part of this panel, and I found myself to be among our friends and partners. What can we possibly be doing on this panel on industrial design? I would like to launch my presentation. We could do a lot. On the one hand, we are a company which is engaged on the one hand in developing complex engineering projects, more than 11 industries, but at the same time we work at the industry with design and technology. So what have we recently achieved? We have performed 4 engineering revolutions, beginning with a 3D design. We have been able to develop an integrated cyber platform, and now we are working on a digitalized twin of a human being, so to say. And I think the what-if approach has already been mentioned mentioned here, this is what we are doing, and we rely a lot on the designer's approach, and we have a feedback from our customers and clients from the interaction. But the thinking designer seems to be in the genes of our company. We are not going to speak about industrial design exclusively, but about the economy as well. There seems to be a process when there's no clear distinction between professions and industries. One of our major projects is called the Living Heart. The headquarters is in the US, but a huge number of participants are engaged, from students of industrial design to big pharma to engineers. You may be surprised, but the medical industry appeared to have been lagging behind in the sphere of design, and ideas are being introduced from such spheres as aircraft building or automobile building. When we take a pill or when we're undergoing a surgical operation, it's a trial and error process. But why not think ahead before actually undertaking an operation, not to design and manufacture a prototype of the particular person's heart and then test your methods. But without doubt, these are the kind of projects that need new approaches, both in education and training. Where do we get the personnel or the, for instance, a professor in engineering at the moment may start teaching students of medicine, and I would like to say a few words on what possibly the state could do, how it could contribute in terms of multi-industrial education and training. If we take aerospace industry, well, in such companies as Boeing or Airbus, in Wichita University, for example, a new research and design center was established jointly with the university and startups, dealing on tasks and challenges facing the industry, and at the same time develop ideas for new projects. And through this approach, students are learning the innovative approaches, and it is being done jointly by the state and the major industrial enterprises. I think this is the kind of approach where both companies and scientific community may work hand in hand, may guarantee success, and the design thinking will help us all. I suggest we all move to industrial design and educating the younger generation of the younger generation of engineers. You are doing a lot in this sphere, not only for the younger generations. Thank you.
Please describe your experience. I'm very glad to welcome all the participants on behalf of our center, and welcome to greet our audience and our speakers online. Of course, so we're doing a great job. Sorry, wrong picture, wrong image. So we're doing a lot to form the environment and the community. And I will use this opportunity and briefly describe the work of our organization. We suggest a global look at the market, and we design brands, we design products, and it's accessible and available to everyone. We work with professional, well-known designers, professionals in the field of marketing and in what's happening in the market. They're also experts in forming the professional community and establishing inter-branch, inter-sector connections. So this is the model of our activity. This is a design studio. We create objects. And going back to the first presentation, we know very well what the trends of the future and of today look like, because one of our key clients is Transmarsh Holding, and we also have a unit working with brand designs. We pack an idea and present it at the market, and this is a new development which started, new sphere which started in February, and it started with the work in the market, proposal of different formats which will bring together people and would connect in one unit all elements of this process, the clients and the producers of design. So what have we managed to do so far, starting in February? The first event that I would like to draw your attention to is our professional conference, Design Day. It was held online this year, and I hope that next year it will be offline. And the vivid demonstration to prove that we are working at creating this community is the fact that practically everyone in this panel cooperated with us. We were speakers at that professional conference, and despite the fact that the conference was devoted only to industrial design, it was followed by about 2,000 people. And we offered different formats, lectures, workshops, design dialogues, and we were in constant contact with our design community and online answered questions of these people. So it was important for us not only to talk about ourselves, but to get feedback from the audience. The event was held in June 29. That's the day of industrial design, and we joined the all design organizations, and there we talked about the Russian design to all countries of our planet. We're working at educational training projects. One of our products is a corporate accelerator, which is called Leader of Change. We tell industrial enterprises how important it is to implement industrial design into their production process. This is what Sergei Smirnov mentioned as well. This is a program of lectures which shows specific cases from leading specialists in this field, starting with how to formulate the technical assignment for the industrial designer and up to the entering the market with this design. And our initiative, which we create together with the company after Autodesk, is the Russian competition of generative design. Soon we shall start analyzing the applications. And here we have more experienced engineers, less experienced engineers. This is a big project, and side by side with this, there is a training program, webinars devoted to the new methods of training, of design, understanding what generative design means, the role of artificial intelligence here. And on September the 10th, I invite you all to Instagram page 2022, where one of the leading designers of our studio, Kirill Voronik, will speak about generative design online. On the basis of 2050 Lab, we opened the course of competences where our teachers teach and train the first steps, and these courses are also suggested for advanced users. And of course, we carry out research as well, which is very important, because we need to know the interests of the clients and the origins. And on our site now, you find global research of the market of industrial design, where you find information from the times of the Soviet Union till now. And we look into the future with a forecast till 2030 about the development of the market of industrial design, both in our country and in all regions of our planet. I hope that such conferences would be useful to understand that industrial design is not only a beautiful wrapper, it's a strategy of the business, which is very important, and it is the real driver of modern economy. Thank you for your attention. Elena, how did the pandemic influence your community? First of all, we started missing each other, and it was so nice to see each other here today for the first time, not online. And then representatives of industrial design showed their flexibility and carried out transformation during this complicated situation, in this historical situation, at the time of a challenge, economic challenge as well, and invented some new formats, how to cut off what is unnecessary and focus on the most important elements and not to lose their clients. We're all in constant contact. I hope we'll soon meet each other more and more and discuss our topical questions. We promise to contribute to it. Thank you. We started talking about the experience of young engineers, so it's time to give the floor to Alexei Karfidov. Thank you for taking part in our discussion. Please share your experience. Tell us about what you are doing, what products you are developing. You have the floor. I would like to greet you all. It's a great pleasure to be here and and at last offline to see the participants speak about our important topical issues. And Elena was quite correct. It's a long time since we saw each other offline. Now, what I'm going to say may be rather radical from some points of view, but we're at the forum, attending the forum which is called after Stolypin, and I think this is not accidental. I would offer some arguments, some ideas. So the first one, we're now in Russia, and companies which focus on technical aesthetics have an advantage. But we have several companies which are like a kind of designer offices. And I agree with Sergei Smirnov, who quite often says that a good industrial designer is a good engineer as well. And this is true. And another important element about our today's situation is the fact that in Russia only technical companies survive if they work in close contact with production. Unlike other countries, in Russia, industrial design is not autonomous, is not cannot exist on its own. As a company, we have to develop in these these difficult times, and we focus on electronics, on the mechanical component. And many foreign companies, and they also note this, that those companies which work in Russia pay special attention to the technical component. Therefore, companies like ours, and not only our company, receive applications from orders from foreign clients, and not only relevant for industrial design, but for aesthetics. And of course, we would like not to have financial losses in this process, and we're interested in very speedy production. So our contact with production is very close. My next argument is that after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, Russia is a world leader in the field of lost technologies. Yesterday we discussed the need to restore deep water apparatus made of titanium. And in the Soviet days, these apparatus were produced by the explosion of the titanium sheet. Now this technology has been lost, and it has to be restored anew. And this is a typical example. In all the periods when we try to create something new and beautiful, we are forced not only to see at the advantages, but we also have to think about the form, which will be beautiful and not very easy to duplicate. And therefore, we have to look for other technologies. And industrial design, from my point of view, from the point of view of an engineer, are an important driver to restore these technologies and to try to help the re-emergence of these technologies, and so that they could function again. This is our secondary impulse in our work. Taking into account the coronavirus situation, we see that many of our projects came to a halt because we receive many components from other countries, electronics coming from China. And now, in the past, these contacts were good and the process was fast. Now I see how we lack independent technologies in Russia, at least maybe partially in the field of electronics, which could be helpful for us in creating the new products. Because when you create something new, you have to create several versions. Something is not functioning, so you have to try another course of action. And argument number 3 about measures of support. We have quite a number of supports. Some of them are functional. Some of them are first in the world, including the financial support coming from Skolkovo, though it was suspended at the moment. But I would like to take a more global view of the support measures. We're a small enterprise, and people who deal with technical design, they're all small companies. And in Russia, there are measures of support from the Ministry of Industry. And as to the research and development, 10% must be done by the efforts on middle and small businesses. And though these measures does exist on paper, it is not really implemented. So I believe it could be great. And this is my very new idea, which was published yesterday as an article. So I believe that in order to support businesses like mine, like ours, if the measures which already are on paper, about 10%, if they were changed, transformed, and turned into a special measure, then we could participate in such projects in a competitive way and take part in this activity.
And this may be done in a more efficient way than other means of support. I speak from my experience working in the industry and in the ministry. Thank you for your attention. I may have been over emotional, but thank you very much anyway. We are going online. design, and maybe there are many who are watching us. Maybe a piece of advice addressing all those interested in technology and see themselves in designing new types of product. I should say, just stick to the university community, and you can draw a lot of support from the university, and this may be a launching pad for innovative design. Secondly, I, as a person, believe you should try and learn as much skills and competences as well as a wide range of knowledge that you may need and you are sure to need as a future designer or engineer. And this is the kind of a person speaking from experience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We seem to be coming to the end of our discussion. My thanks to all the participants and our international speakers. We seem to have been able to raise a few questions. And thank you very much. See you sometime again in the future.
Спасибо большое.